Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com, back with some more Pittsburgh Steelers tape breakdown and analysis. Today I want to talk about a technique that offensive line coach Pat Meyer permits and instructs, but one I have not seen used before under him since being hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about it. And before we start, if you guys could like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Would really appreciate that. So I want to focus in on number 66, Mason McCormick. Before I do that, let's look at the play overall. This was the moon ball to George Pickens for 37 yards, the best throw of the day for Russell Wilson in Sunday's win over the Baltimore Ravens. So that, of course, gets the headline. A little double move from Pickens, a great ball from Wilson, late hands from Pickens. That's the catch against Brandon Stephens. That draws the highlight in the headline. What I think is the coolest part of this play is, let's talk about right guard Mason McCormick having a good season, pressed into action, replacing the injured James Daniels. Very likely to be this team's starting right guard for 2025. Watch the technique here that he uses against this defensive tackle. You're going to get what can commonly be called a butt block or a box out, looking like posting up for a rebound in basketball. This is really interesting, and this is something that Pat Meyer teaches, and I don't recall somebody using it, at least this obviously, before. So I know it looks bad, but there's kind of a method to the madness. So I just want to walk through this little quirk of being able to recover when you're in a bad spot, because Pat Meyer's underlying philosophy, and I think it's the correct one, is do whatever it takes to block the guy. It doesn't have to look pretty. Keep the quarterback clean. Keep the pocket. Let him get the throw off. You can do that. However, you have to accomplish that. That's fair game. And so, talked about Pat Meyer a lot in his past sets and the kind of aggressive nature of them. And so we're going to get an on-body set here where the inside leg of the defensive tackle is on the body of the guard. And so that tells McCormick he's going to take a really aggressive set that's actually going to come forward about 2 inches. So it's actually kind of a forward vertical set in a sense. So I like to take a look at these from the aerial view. You can kind of get a good sense of the depth that McCormick has here. And he's not going to retreat. He's not even going to set flat. He's going to set forward a bit. And so that's the on-body set. So I want to run it back here to the aerial view, and I'll kind of reset to get the pre-snap look. We're going to see the D tackle, number 98, Travis Jones. He's the one tech. He's shaded inside in this A-gap. And so initially, McCormick's going to slide down, protect that A-gap with Zach Frazier on this rep. I think he's going to slide away, help out Isaac Seumalo. And so McCormick has to respect that, respect that interior A-gap. And so he slides down, but on that aggressive on-body set. Jones off the snap rushes now to the outside edge here into the B gap, and then swipes his hands and then swims back inside. And so where this technique comes in is if you can't recover, and Pat Meyer says if you can't push off the post foot, which is the inside foot, his left foot here, you can use, we'll call it a butt block, but this box out technique. And so McCormick gets his hips open. He loses the inside here. He believes he can't recover, and so he's going to spin, and this is the technique. We're going to get wide hands and high elbows is what Pat Meyer teaches. We're going to get wide here and box this guy out, and it works really well. It does, and I think maybe Jones stepped wrong or something, but the technique works. Now, Meyer teaches if you can only use this and actually box him out if you know where he's at, if you can feel where he's at. If you can't, because Meyer also will teach this for stunt pickup sometimes, if you're caught out of position, and if you don't know exactly where that guy's at, you have to spin the whole way around and relocate him. So you have to do a complete spin. Here, if you can feel where this guy is at, you feel where this D tackle is at, then you can use this technique. Let's take a look at it from the other video. You might be able to see a little different insight here. So again, Jones here in the A-gap. McCormick steps down to protect the inside. Jones starts rushing to the outside edge, knocks McCormick's hands down. McCormick gets turned, so he really can't push off and stay square. He's really lost the rep here. And so to recover, he's using this technique of getting big. You feel the defender, box him out, and it works really well overall. So that's the technique. I know it's been coached. We wrote about it whenever Meyer was hired. I'm going to put some notes here on that in just 1 second. I'll leave a link in the description as well to the coaching clinic we wrote on Pat Meyer shortly after he was hired a couple of years ago. And so really cool technique. I think McCormack's having a good year. Had some struggles in pass pro especially, a little tall in the run game too, but certainly a Pittsburgh Steeler, a mauler, a physical kind of a guy, a finisher, and I think he's really adjusted well for kind of being thrown in the fire with that James Daniels injury. So that's the technique. I think it's really cool. I don't know exactly if he has a term for it. He's called in the past, Pat Meyer has, spinning the spinner, but that seems to reference more stunts than it would be this. And whatever you want to call it, it works. And whatever you got to do to get out of a jam when you're caught out of position, that's what Pat Meyer permits. So I just want to put up a couple of clips here. This is from a Pat Meyer coaching clinic that we wrote up. And again, I will have the link in the description that talks about the technique and the rules for using this technique, however you want to call it. But basically, it's under the idea of what if you're overextended and can't recover. So once McCormack loses the inside gap, doesn't have the help with Frazier sliding away as part of the protection on that play, that's where the technique comes in. And I'll post a photo of some clips of a Chargers practice in which Meyer is having his guys work on this technique. I don't recall seeing it in Pittsburgh in training camp before, but I imagine it's not something utilized too often. Again, I do not remember it being used by a Steeler before. I could be wrong. I know there's a clip about Jonathan Scott doing that, a long time ago. I don't know if that was instructed back then, but Pat Meyer obviously was not the O-line coach back then. So yeah, we'll just take one last look at it. I'm kind of going a bit slower in this video, but I think it's cool to kind of break down these little Easter eggs on tape, things you don't see too often. Typically, a quarter or a offensive lineman looking at your quarterback is not where you want to be, but in this case, it works out. And I just think McCormack's doing a good job. He's had a lot on his plate, a lot of technique changes. A lot of young guys have trouble adjusting to Pat Meyer's system, these more aggressive pass sets. But McCormack's done a really nice job of picking things up and happy with his play. So I will leave you on the image of McCormack blocking Travis Jones in unconventional, but ultimately efficient and effective fashion. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you guys watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check out the site, SteelersDepot.com. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon.